In the small village of Willowmere, there lived a boy named Feliciano, who was known for his gentle smile and his great fear of almost everything. He was afraid of the dark, afraid of heights, afraid of the barking dog next door, and especially afraid of speaking up in front of others. When the wind howled at night, he'd hide under his blanket. When his teacher called on him in class, his voice turned into a whisper. And when the older kids played near the forest, Feliciano would stay far behind, clutching his backpack straps tightly. "Courage just isn't my thing," he sighed one morning, watching clouds drift lazily across the sky. One afternoon, as Feliciano wandered home from school, he took a shortcut through a narrow alley he'd never noticed before. At the end stood a tiny shop squeezed between two tall buildings. Its crooked sign read, "Miss Marigold's Marvelous Shoe Emporium, Magic for the Brave at Heart." The door jingled as he stepped inside. Rows upon rows of colorful shoes lined the walls, red boots that shimmered, blue sneakers that glowed, and silver sandals that seemed to hum softly. "Welcome, young man," came a kind voice. Behind the counter stood Miss Marigold, a cheerful woman with hair like golden thread and eyes that twinkled. Feliciano stammered. I was just looking," she smiled knowingly. "Looking for courage, perhaps?" Miss Marigold chuckled. "Ah, my dear, the shoes always call to those who need them." She reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small box wrapped in yellow silk. Inside was a pair of shiny yellow shoes that sparkled like sunlight on water. "They're beautiful," Feliciano whispered. "They're more than beautiful," Miss Marigold said softly. "These shoes help you find your courage, but only if you take the first step yourself." Feliciano slipped the shoes on. They fit perfectly, snug but light, warm but airy. He took one step and felt a tiny tremor of courage ripple up his legs. "Go on," Miss Marigold encouraged. "The world is waiting for your brave steps." He thanked her, paid with the few coins he had, and stepped outside. The shoes gleamed in the sunlight, making little golden footprints wherever he went. He walked home proudly, his head a little higher than usual. The next morning, Feliciano had to pass by Mr. Howard's house, the one with Rocky, the loud, toothy dog who barked at everyone. Usually, Feliciano crossed the street and ran. But today, when Rocky started barking, his shiny yellow shoes glowed faintly. Feliciano's heart still pounded, but he whispered to himself, "One brave step." He kept walking, slowly, steadily, and to his surprise, Rocky stopped barking. The dog tilted his head curiously, then wagged his tail. Feliciano smiled. His shoes shimmered a little brighter. A few days later, his class took a trip to Willowmere Woods, a forest full of tall, whispering trees. Everyone was excited, except Feliciano. "What if I get lost?" he worried. "What if there are wild animals?" But then he looked down at his glowing yellow shoes. "One brave step," he whispered again. He followed his class into the forest, his heart racing. But soon he found himself noticing how beautiful everything was. The sunlight spilling through the leaves, the song of distant birds, the soft moss underfoot. When a branch cracked behind him, he jumped, but didn't run. Instead, he turned around and found a tiny squirrel nibbling an acorn. He laughed, shaking his head. Maybe, he thought, bravery wasn't about not being scared. It was about moving forward anyway. A week later, the school announced a talent day. Each student had to perform something in front of the entire class. Feliciano's stomach flipped. He'd rather climb a mountain or fight a dragon than stand on that stage. But that night, Miss Marigold's words echoed in his mind. "The shoes help you find your courage, but only if you take the first step yourself." He looked at his shiny yellow shoes by his bed. "Just one brave step," he whispered, placing his hand over his heart. The next day, as he stepped onto the stage, the shoes glowed softly beneath him. His knees trembled, his palms were sweaty, but he began to speak. He told a short story about a boy who found courage in a pair of magical shoes. His voice shook at first, but soon it grew stronger. The class listened quietly, their eyes wide. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Feliciano grinned from ear to ear. His shoes shone brilliantly. Then, to his surprise, the glow slowly faded until they were just regular yellow shoes again. After school, Feliciano ran back to the alley to thank Miss Marigold, but the shop was gone. Only a small note fluttered where the door had been. "Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Bye."